Welcome to the first episode of The Truth Clean. Today we're going to talk about how eco-friendly descalers are changing the way we care for our homes and our planet. Now, this is a real deep dive for us, looking into some, frankly, an incredible source material. It's a state-of-the-art review on corrosion mitigation.
Sounds pretty heavy, I know.
It does, but what we found is, it's this amazing overlap between high-level material science and really common natural stuff.
Exactly. It turns out this super technical fight against rust and scale, in huge industrial settings, think pipelines, power plants, that fight is now being led by solutions that come from some quite surprising natural sources.
So our mission today is really to unpack the science behind these green inhibitors, as they're called, and figure out why they seem to be revolutionizing descaling everywhere from massive steel structures right down to, say, the washing machine in your laundry room.
That's the core of it. Steel is just fundamental, isn't it? Construction, transport, and yeah, absolutely, our home appliances too. But the thing about steel, even though it's so useful, is that chemically it's prone to corrosion, especially when we try to clean it.
Okay, let's get into that. Why is cleaning something we think of as helpful? Why is it actually risky for steel?
It really comes down to the chemistry of descaling itself. See, when you want to get rid of rust or scale, you generally reach for an acid. Now, that could be strong stuff like hydrochloric or sulfuric acid in industry, or maybe milder organic acids like a household cleaner.
Right.
But the acid, it doesn't just dissolve the scale or the rust you want to remove. It also starts dissolving the actual metal underneath.
Okay. You're talking about that basic reaction, becoming phons, losing electrons, that kind of thing.
Precisely. Phi right arrow, Phi tet plus tiny 2 plus 2 ELR. And the source material really highlights this. The rate of metal loss, the steel literally getting thinner, can often be way higher during this kind of aggressive cleaning than it would be over, say, decades of just sitting in the atmosphere.
Wow, so you're actually accelerating the damage when you're trying to maintain something.
You are. You're speeding up the aging process, essentially, which is obviously a disaster if you're cleaning, I don't know, $1 million piece of industrial kit.
So, okay, acid cleans the scale, but it also eats the metal. What's the workaround? What do? You
have to add something else, an inhibitor. That's the key.
An inhibitor, okay.
Historically, people used various organic inhibitors to kind of act as a buffer. And they worked, to an extent. But they came with some major downsides. The sources point out three main ones. They were often really expensive. Many were hazardous to the environment or health. And they often needed specialist knowledge just to make them.
Which means they weren't always practical for widespread use, I guess?
Exactly. Not easily scalable or affordable for every application.
And, we can't really talk about older inhibitors without mentioning the big environmental issue.
Oh, absolutely. That became a huge factor. For years, inorganic inhibitors like chromate were widely used because they were effective. But chromate is, it's highly toxic, really nasty stuff. So it's now banned globally because of the severe environmental damage it causes.
And taking that effective tool away, even though it was necessary for safety.
It created what the researchers call an utmost requirement. A really urgent need for alternatives that were safe, sustainable, and still worked really well.
Right. So a push for safety and sustainability, but without losing performance. How did the science respond? What's changed?
Well, the shift has been pretty quick and very focused, actually. The answer seems to lie in these eco-friendly corrosion inhibitors or green inhibitors.
Green inhibitors, okay.
Yeah. And their advantages are pretty clear, according to the sources. They tend to be economical, they're much less hazardous, and crucially, the raw materials are readily available from natural, often renewable sources. It's all part of this bigger push towards, a sustainable society, moving away from complex lab synthesis towards using what nature provides.
That makes sense as a goal. But let's get down to the mechanism. This is where it gets really interesting for me. How can a molecule from, a plant, how can it actually stand up to harsh acids and protect something like industrial steel?
It's all about the molecular structure. It's quite elegant, really. These green inhibitor molecules have specific features. They contain what chemists call heteroatoms.
Heteroatoms.
Yeah, atoms other than carbon or hydrogen. Things like oxygen, nitrogen, or sulfur are common ones. Or they might have structures called p-bonds, which are basically areas in the molecule with available electrons.
Okay, so they have these special atoms or electron clouds. Why does the steel care about that?
Okay, think of the steel surface like a parking lot. Corrosion happens when aggressive things, like acid ions, find empty spots to park and start reacting. These green inhibitor molecules, with their heteroatoms or pi bonds, are really good at donating electrons. They essentially rush in and take those parking spots on the metal surface first.
Ah, so they physically block the bad guys, the corrosive ions?
They do. They absorb onto the steel surface. That's the technical term. They stick to it, forming a very thin but very persistent film, a protective layer.
Like a microscopic shield.
Exactly. And this film slows down both parts of the corrosion reaction, the anodic and cathodic parts. It basically puts the brakes on the iron dissolving. What's really key is that often it's not just weak sticking like static cling physisorption. It's often chemisorption.
Chemisorption, meaning
The inhibitor molecule forms a proper chemical bond, a strong covalent bond with the metal surface atoms. It's chemically locked on.
Okay, that sounds much more robust than just physically blocking, like it's welded on at a molecular level.
It is. It makes that protective layer much more stable and harder to remove, especially under tough conditions like high acid concentration or temperature.
And is this performance? I mean, is it genuinely good enough? Can these natural solutions really compete with the old, maybe hazardous synthetic ones?
Oh, absolutely. The data is compelling. Researchers are specifically looking for and compiling data on green inhibitors that show more than 90% corrosion inhibition efficiency.
90% plus, that's serious performance.
It is. So it's not just about being greener or safer, although that's crucial. It's about achieving top-tier protection, often from really common, low-cost natural materials. They're definitely competing and in many cases outperforming the older synthetic types.
Okay, if that molecular shield is that effective, I'm really curious now. What specific natural things are we talking about? What did the research highlight as star performers?
Right, the list is quite something and genuinely surprising in places because the sources are so, well, ordinary. Let's start with things you might literally have in your kitchen. Quinoa seed extract.
Quinoa, the grain.
The very same. Tested in hydrochloric acid, it showed an incredible 98% inhibition efficiency.
98% from quinoa. Okay, that changes how I look at my lunch.
Doesn't it? And natural nutmeg oil, also very effective. That clocked in at 94.73% efficiency in the same acid.
Why? What is it about quinoa and nutmeg?
It goes back to those heteroatoms. The organic molecules in them contain the right kinds of oxygen and nitrogen atoms, perfectly positioned to bond strongly with the iron on the steel surface.
Fascinating. Okay, what about other plant sources? Maybe things not usually in the pantry.
Yeah, there are some really potent ones. A major standout is cashew nut shell liquid CNSL.
Cashew nut shell liquid, not the nut itself.
No, the liquid from the shell. It's actually a byproduct of processing cashews, often considered waste. But it showed amazing results, 99.47% efficiency in hydrochloric acid.
Wow, 99.47. That's practically perfect protection from waste, essentially.
Exactly. Huge potential there. We also see great results from things like allopolysaccharide from the aloe vera plant that hit 96.12%. And extracts from Ziziphus panacristi, which is the Christ's thorn jujube tree. Its leaves provide extracts showing consistently over 90% efficiency. These are sustainable resources, too.
Okay, so foods, plant extracts. But you mentioned surprising sources. Did the research delve into anything really unconventional?
It certainly did. Biowaste is a big area. Get this. An extract made from human hair.
Human hair.
Seriously. HHR, they called it. Tested on mild steel and hydrochloric acid, it showed 96.65% inhibition efficiency.
How on earth does hair stop corrosion?
Keratin. The main protein in hair is rich in nitrogen and sulfur atoms, those crucial heteroatoms again. They provide the right molecular structure to form that protective adsorbed layer.
That is genuinely mind-blowing, using hair to protect steel. So it seems whether it's hair or quinoa or cashew shells, the underlying principle is the same. Get those heteroatoms onto the metal surface.
That's the core chemical principle, yes. And it applies even to simpler building blocks.
Yeah.
Basic amino acids like glycine and cysteine. They work well because they inherently have the nitrogen, oxygen, or sulfur atoms needed. And even things like guar gum, which is a common natural polysaccharide, that's shown to be effective, particularly in sulfuric acid, showing these natural compounds can work across different corrosive environments.
Right. So, okay, we've seen these natural solutions are incredibly effective in the lab, some achieving near perfect protection. But the source material seems focused on industrial applications. Why should you, listening at home, care if cashew nut shell liquid protects a giant pipeline somewhere?
Well, partly because corrosion is just such a massive global issue, economically speaking. It costs industries billions every year. So finding effective, cheap, safe solutions is a huge deal. And these green inhibitors are finding uses in really critical industrial areas where steel failure is just not an option.
Can you give us some examples? Where is this tech really making waves?
Sure. First off, acid pickling. That's the process used to clean brand new steel, removing surface impurities before it gets used in manufacturing or construction. Inhibitors are crucial there.
Okay.
Then you have pipelines transporting oil and gas. These often contain corrosive stuff like hydrogen sulfide, H2S, or carbon dioxide, CO2, which makes the environment inside the pipe incredibly aggressive towards steel.
Right, a very harsh environment.
Extremely. And third, think about boiler tubes in power plants. You've got high temperatures, high pressure, and water carrying potentially aggressive ions, all leading to scale and corrosion. Managing that is vital for efficiency and safety.
And the research, it's testing these natural inhibitors under those kinds of extreme conditions, right? I saw mentions of things like boiling acid solutions.
Exactly. We're talking really severe tests like 15% concentration hydrochloric acid, sometimes boiling. Conditions far harsher than you'd ever encounter in, say, a domestic descaler, which uses maybe a low acid concentration at room temperature.
Okay, I see the connection now.
If these non-toxic natural inhibitors can be proven to work reliably under those incredibly demanding industrial conditions, where failure could be catastrophic, well, that gives us massive confidence.
It means the underlying technology is robust. It's not just good enough for gentle home use, it's actually been proven tough enough for the most extreme applications.
Precisely. It demonstrates that we can have safe, eco-friendly descaling solutions for everyday products without compromising on high performance. The science is solid.
That really brings us to the main takeaway, doesn't it? We're moving beyond that old trade-off where effective cleanings seem to demand hazardous or expensive chemicals. These green inhibitors, sourced from nature, are proving they can be both economical and deliver top-tier performance, often hitting that 95% efficiency mark or higher.
Absolutely. The scientific consensus is clear. The future's in these eco-friendly inhibitors. The research focus needs to stay on them for a truly sustainable approach. And the results compiled so far show they are definitely competitive with, and quite often superior to, the expensive, hazardous synthetic compounds we used to rely on.
So, the science backs it up. When you're choosing cleaning products, especially descalers, look for sustainable options. We encourage you to choose those sustainable cleaning products, knowing that the evidence confirms highly effective, non-hazardous solutions are out there thanks to nature's chemistry.
And maybe just a final thought to leave you with. We've seen the magic lies in those heteroatoms, nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur, arranged correctly on a molecule. Thinking about that basic chemical principle, what simple natural things might be sitting in your own kitchen or maybe growing in your garden right now that have the right molecular structure to form that perfect protective shield on steel, even if nobody's tested them yet.
Something to ponder. That's a deep dive for another time, perhaps. Thank you for joining us on The Truth Clean.